So the point of this video is just to give perspective on how expensive this game can get. So hopefully this works as a form of I guess an advance warning so that people don't get caught up in the rolling system, since it can be very exciting to roll on banners. Obviously the best way to get characters, but it's important just to be careful, especially if you've been watching a bunch of content creators out there who roll a ton on banners. Now don't get me wrong, the rolling videos are great and I do like to watch them too, but not very realistic for most players out there. So before we get into a bit of the number heavy part, because I wanted to go over the actual cost of the 5 stars as you saw in the title, it's important to keep in mind that the way the limited banners are released and designed are to make players have a kind of fear of missing out on the characters with the now 2 week banner duration. So there's kind of this sentiment where if you don't get it within the 2 weeks, you're never going to get it again. That's not always going to be the case. So we do have some rumors about characters coming back as of late, but we'll see if that does get confirmed. Now, as I mentioned in a previous video on spending in Genshin, unless you're willing to drop hundreds of dollars over time, or even thousands, you will not get all the characters. And given enough releases, it won't even matter how lucky you might get. You could be the RNG god, but given enough time, the character releases will outpace you and it will get too expensive. Another thing to think of is that unless you're trying to collect all the characters, all you really need is 8. Now, if you're playing this game for a while, you'll have seen and you will see a bunch of banners come and go. So instead of worrying about missing out on a specific character, we should be more so looking ahead at the great characters that I'm sure will be released. The current one, as of when I'm recording this, is Hu Tao, who looks pretty good so far. The latest one that just came out before was Zhao, or the latest new one. Zhao being a pretty great character, has a pretty unique playstyle too, so great kit overall. And keep in mind, we're still only being exposed to the Mondstadt and Liyue cities, so when the other regions come out, we can expect some great things and some brand new characters to come with it. All this to say is that there's no rush to flesh out a full 8 character, 5 star roster right away, especially since it takes a ton of resin and a ton of time to get even decent artifacts on a character, let alone good ones. So it's always important to keep in mind that if you get characters too fast, you're not even going to be able to build them right away. So there's no point in rushing unless you're going to spend money on resin too. And more importantly, once you have a full 8 character, a 5 star, like a 8 man roster, 5 star characters, all that, how important really is it to get your ninth and 10th 5 star? It'll still be cool, I'm sure, especially with the new characters that come out, but not as important as your first 8. And the last thing to keep in mind before we move on to the actual number part is just to avoid tunnel visioning on a specific character, because the best case on the character limited banner where there's the built-in guarantee, your costs will double if you miss. And on the other banners, like the perma banner or the weapon banner, it can easily skyrocket higher since there's no cap at all. And there's never a guarantee of you getting one of the items, so you can't really focus on the one you want. The most important thing to remember here is that every 5 star is unique and has their own playstyle and role in the game, so they're never a waste. So that's why the tunnel visioning, it makes sense to try to avoid that at all costs. Now, if we move on to the actual cost part, so the cost of a 5 star, we have to keep a couple of things in mind. First, the cost of the rolls themselves, of course, and also the odds of pulling a specific character. Because when we're rolling, I'm sure nobody's really rolling and just looking to roll any random 5 star. You're usually looking for something specific, which is why I'll be looking at the cost to pull something specific here. So in this video, I'll be laying out the money you'll need to spend so that you can pretty much expect to get the character based on the rolls and the odds of the drops. The goal here is to paint an accurate picture of the gacha rolling system and highlight the trap that's built into these banners. All I'm trying to do here is to get this information out there, and if it prevents even one person from falling into the trap, that's good enough for me. So now let's start off with the base amount of getting one 5 star drop. This applies to both the perma and limited character banners. So I'll be showing the figures or the cost both in Primo gems, so that'll be kind of a universal metric, and also in US dollars. To give a dollar amount, just to keep it simple, I'll just do the one currency. The Primo gem count, of course, will be accurate no matter what server you're on, but the dollar amount will change depending on your region, of course. Now, as we know, for the character banners, you guarantee a 5 star after 90 rolls, but the typical range here where you'll get it is between 75 to 85 rolls, so I'll run the numbers for both the interval and the guarantee. So First off, for 90 rolls at 160 Primo Gems each, you'll need 14,400 Primos, which cost roughly $177, which will guarantee a 5-star no matter how unlucky you are. Now, for the typical range, so from 75 to 85, you'll need between 12,000 and 13,600 Primo Gems, which costs from 147 to 167. This is what an average 5-star should cost, where you don't really get unlucky, but also not lucky. Now, if we look at the perma banner, it gets much worse. So trying to get a specific 5-star is never guaranteed and is part of a list of 15. So you have a 1 out of 15 shot every time you roll a 5-star, and there's never a guarantee built in. So, so we can see here that the cost can quickly skyrocket. Now, logically, if you want to roll a specific 5-star on it, and you don't get lucky or unlucky, you'll need to roll 15 of them. This shoots the cost up from 147 to $2,205, or from 14,400 Primo Gems to 216,000. Now, keep in mind you won't have to necessarily spend 216,000 to get a specific character, but that's just logically how many Primo Gems you'll need to be able to expect to get the character. And keep in mind again, there's never a guarantee on the permanent banner, so it's definitely not the way to go if you're looking for something specific. Moving on to the limited character banner, the cost of a single 5-star is the same at 12,000 to 14,400 Primo Gems, or 147 to $177. The upside of limited banner is that you're guaranteed the banner character on the second try if you miss the coin flip. So your cost can only double, but keep in mind it still does get quite expensive at 24,000 Primo Gems to 28,800 Primo Gems, or $294 to $354. And keep in mind, this is all just for one character. So you'll end up getting 2 characters, but if you're gunning for one character, you're still just trying to pursue this one character. So you're getting hundreds of dollars deep, and in the perma banner case, even thousands for one character you want. So based on these numbers, we need to ask ourselves if the cost for one 5-star that we want is worth it just for a chance at getting it. The point I want to highlight here is the crazy amounts of money you will need to spend to get a bunch of 5-star characters quickly, when all you're really gaining is time, since you'll be able to fill out your roster with 5-stars over time. It might be a few months, but it will save you hundreds of dollars. And you can have some crazy strong 4-star characters like Fischl and Bennett out there that could fill out your roster, make it great still, and you could even use them in the place of 5-stars. So at the end of the day, if you can afford to drop crazy amounts of money on the game, why not? But I just want to reinforce that it's definitely not necessary. The last thing, and I mentioned this a little bit earlier, is that I do have an earlier video on how to spend a few dollars a month on the game to get a very good return on your money in terms of primos. So feel free to check that out if you're looking to save gems over the long term for a 5-star in the future. So that pretty much sums it up for the cost of the 5-stars. As we did see, it does get pretty brutally expensive if you're looking for something specific. The thing to keep in mind, though, I mentioned a couple of things in this video, is that one, every 5-star is useful. They have their own playstyle and role in the game, so it's never a waste to get a 5-star, even if it's not the one that you were gunning for at the beginning of your rolling session. Next, the video that I posted earlier, so this I think was a couple of weeks ago, about spending a little in Genshin, so I think it was $15 to $20 a month, would generate you the best return in terms of Primo Gems over the course of a month, of course. Saving Primo Gems this way won't get you 5-stars immediately, but it will get you them over time. And as I did mention, the only thing that spending loads of money on this game saves you is time, because eventually you'll get 5-stars, because there's good ways of getting the gems free to play. So if you don't necessarily need to rush to get the 5-stars, it's the best case scenario just to wait, save over time, get the characters you want eventually. Keep in mind, 2 out of the 7 regions that are rumored to come out are out, so there will be plenty of characters to go around later on in the game. As always, if you did find this video helpful, or if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate if you can subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that stuff, and I will see you in the next one.